So it's been quite a while that I've done a video, and we've been always busy on the nursery, so it's never quiet. Although I've not done video, doesn't mean that I've had nothing to do. So I've been inspired to do something today because a customer brought a hopeless case to me. For some reason, as I told you, people seem to think that I can do anything to lost causes. So this is a lost cause. There is a history to this tree. This lady bought this tree about 15 years ago from another bonsai nursery. And this tree, I can tell straight away, that is a San Jose, but because it's been grown in the pot for so long, you can see this is a typical San Jose foliage, very prickly. But because it's been grown in the pot for so long, they get the adult foliage, which is not prickly. So this is adult foliage of San Jose Juniper. And people who make their own bonsai, San Jose has been a very popular variety of juniper to use. Now what happened to this tree? Apparently it was standing on a plinth, so the owner told me, and while her husband was mowing the grass, the husband knocked the tree off the plinth while mowing the grass. It fell down and broke this branch. This branch almost broken. And the whole of this side somehow is almost completely dead. You see, it's come detached away. So it's all dead wood now. But I think this is general neglect because there are branches here also which are dying. So it's only the tip which is growing. So she said, can you do anything with it? Well, you can always do something with it. There is no such thing as an impossible tree. So here it is. I like challenges like this. So the first thing I look at this tree is that I'm probably not going to use the style as it was meant to be. It was like a twin trunk, one trunk here, one trunk there. I don't think the design was very nice. So how can we improve it? Now, although this side is dead, I could use it for some part of the design. So we will not destroy this completely, even those can be used. By now you probably know my philosophy and approach to bonsai. For every problem, there is always more than one solution. So what are the possible solutions to this tree? Oh, the other thing, see, this side is almost dead and nothing growing this. I think they must have been growing it against the wall. If you grow it against the wall, nothing grows. And it's facing that side. So this is what happens when you grow a tree against a wall. And I suspect that this is how it has been growing for the last few years. Mind you, this fell off the plinth more than 10 years ago. So for 10 years, they've done nothing to it. So what can I do with this tree? Straight away, turning it around. It's too flat. It looks as if a bird has sat on it and compressed the whole thing. Let's change the angle. Changing the angle is always a good way to start. So let's change the angle like this. Once you change the angle, it begins to take on a completely new appearance. So this is more like it. Let's look at it from the other side. I'm keeping a very open mind. What I thought was the front, that side, may not end up as the front. It may be this side that is the front. So this would be a good angle to plant it. I know I have to create some branches. Also, if I made a literati with this as the front, this is also possible. This is also possible. So this is a number 2 solution. So growing it up almost like an informal upright, but because it's bare here, it is like a pseudo literati. And then we will probably get rid of these bits. But the other solution is to use this as the front, or this as the front, like an informal upright tree with some driftwood there. So although we've got like 2.5 or 3 solutions, there is yet another solution. And the other solution would be to try and make it like a cascade tree. How about that? With a dead top and all the gubbins coming down here. So we will make a cascade like this. So that's also possible. But cascades are not everyone's cup of tea, so it may be too radical for this customer. I would have loved to have made a cascade out of it, but sometimes you got to, as I always say to you, you got to respect your customers' tastes and wishes. So although a cascade is possible, or semi-cascade, so you can bring it right down like that, I would probably not do it because it might come as too much of a shock. So what are the other options that I have left? So the other options were to do it as an informal upright like this. It's got a lovely trunk line, beautiful trunk line there. But then I wouldn't be able to use much of that. I would use these as driftwood, but I wouldn't be able to use this part as driftwood. So I'm in a bit of a quandary as to what to do. This is interesting, but again it is very ordinary, just an informal upright tree. There are hundreds like this. But if I used it like this, with this dramatic driftwood, that would be something special. So I will probably opt for this solution, using either this as the front or the other side as the front. This one, that as the front. Let's get on top. Okay. Let's begin by reducing some of these bits of deadwood, because even if we made gins with it, they don't need to be that long. There's a bit of live, but it's not a lot. Now mind you, in nature you do find junipers growing like this with dead wood. I will bring out some photographs of trees that I've seen growing in the wild. Now this part is broken up, rotting and dead. See the whole of this, look at it. Come close and have a look. See, look at it, all the wood lice is in there. It's completely rotten, so that's no good. Let's take it apart and have a look. This will have rotted away. See the whole tree, half the tree is dead. Let's clean this up a bit. See these wood lice have got into it and eating away the wood. Yeah. Completely rotted. It's like pulp. So this happens in nature. So this is quite common. See, this is all rotten wood. You've got to scrape away to, and when you let it rot naturally, you don't have to do any carving. Look at all this. See, this effect is just from the wood rotting. So even if you try to carve it with Dremels and all sorts of tools, how can you beat nature? You look at that effect. I haven't done any carving. It's just the natural wood rotting away, and these beautiful effects have come out. See, it's just like pulp. Got to get rid of it anyway. We'll keep taking away this dead till we come to the portion which is not dead. See, even this is like absolutely like pulp. And just to be different, if we didn't want to make it into white driftwood, we could just leave it like that with the lichen, because this is what you see in nature. So you don't have to follow slavishly what the rest of the bonsai world does. You can do what you like. Break new ground, create new trends. So that's driftwood for you. I think putting some lime sulphur might prevent more rotting. On reflection, I think we may have to put lime sulphur on it, otherwise it may rot some more. So we will see what it looks like. So we've got to the stage where we've got to take some further decisions, because I don't want to get carried away and start working on the tree without thinking further ahead. And thinking further ahead, I just realized that if I were to repot the tree, if I repot the tree into a pot, that is the root base there, what would happen? This would be touching the soil, isn't it? This will be touching the soil. So this gin would hardly be visible. So that may not work. See, that won't work. See, if that is the horizontal level of the pot, this will be subsumed in the soil. So this design option is not as clever as it seems, because you can't keep the tree propped up in the air like this. So, which brings me back to the other option. Either make it a cascade or just go for the informal upright. I like the informal upright because the trunk line is so interesting. It's got the twists and bends are visible like this. Whereas if you show it even from this side, it's almost straight. So the trunk line is not so interesting looking at the tree this way. So, as always, you have to compromise. And I would, for my money, go for a tree design based on this as the front. So let me work on it with this as the front and see what happens. So let's do a bit of wiring. So now this can be used this way, this can be used this way. This can come down this way. Right. We get some wire and start working on it. Oh, let's look at the tree. So I'm going to use 3.5 millimeter wire to wire these two branches. Okay, 2-branch principle, so I'm wiring these 2 branches. Many of you have always asked if I can repeat some of the basic principles, which I will do. You see, I judge the wire so accurately that there's no wastage. It comes right to the tip. How do I do that? Is it fluke? No, I think it's what we call experience. I never waste any wire. And these are going to work flat, these are going to be work flat. And then we want these two as another pair. So I'm always looking for pairs when I do wiring, the 2-branch principle. So I'm looking for these two. So just a little more. I always keep reminding you that San Jose is a very brittle species, and it was a San Jose that I was working on about 30 or so years ago on a BBC program, and I broke the branch, so I had to pretend that I had intended to break it all along. So be careful when you work with San Jose. Although the branches may appear flexible, they are not as flexible as you might think. This branch is looking as if it may not survive, but it's got some green on it. I think with proper feeding it might survive, so I'll keep it. And the rest is just wiring with finer wires. And we'll see what happens. Now, this is a rather tricky 2-branch. I'm trying to wire this branch with this. So I've got to traverse a long distance. There's an open coil. Again, I've judged the length of wire quite correctly. So I'm trying to arrange them into flat pads. That's all I'm doing. I think if I put it in a semi-cascade pot, I might be able to use this. If I put it in a shallower oval or rectangular pot, this will get subsumed by the soil. But if I prop it up, semi-cascade pot, this could still show. So I'm going to bring a semi-cascade pot just to try out. I'm now going to tease the roots to see if I can get it in a semi-cascade pot. All this lovely moss. This is all natural. When trees are grown outdoors, the moss grows naturally. Or you can cheat a bit and scrape it from the path and put it on top of your trees. But I like to save it because I will use it for other trees. It takes a long time to grow, so why throw it away? I'm not an expert on moss, but there are so many thousands of different varieties. This seems to be a very, very fine variety. It's almost like a velvet coat or velvet material for clothes. I would say this tree has not been repotted in about 10 or 15 years, because since the branch broke, they did nothing to it. So let's see the state of the root. You'll be surprised how long a tree can stay or remain without repotting. So you certainly don't have to do it every year or even every other year. They can be left in the pot for many, many years and they should be still okay. Just a word about moss. When you're growing it on your trees, don't let it creep up the trunk, because if it creeps up the trunk, it makes the wood too damp. I'll show you what's happening here, and it can rot the tree and rot the wood. So keep the moss strictly on the surface and don't let it climb up the trunk. See over here, maybe because that part is dead, you see all this is dead where the moss is growing. See, that's the live vein. Can you see the pink bit? See, all that is dead. Maybe because the back is dead. But I think certainly it would encourage rotting. So just keep it confined to the soil and not up the trunk of the tree. Okay, now let's tease the soil. The soil is very dusty and muddy. The roots are not in good condition, but junipers are very tough trees, and the San Jose in particular is very tough, so I think by repotting it, it will give it a new lease of life. Okay, let me just turn it around. Shake the camera too much. Okay, that's okay. So the roots are well alive, but not a lot of new roots. They're just struggling to live. So there's quite a lot of neglect. Neglect of the top and neglect of the roots. Usually you can tell by the state of the tree, both the roots and the branches of the leaves, what sort of treatment has had, whether it's been neglected or what. So there are no new growth, there's no new shoots, but the existing roots are just about struggling to keep alive. These are dead roots, look at it. See, there's no life in there. Okay, even that is almost dead. This part is live. Can you see the difference? That part is live, but this is dead. So quite a lot of dead roots. So when I pot it, I might put some sphagnum moss in the soil just to help it along. Oh, hardly any new roots. Very bad condition. Almost like standing in water at some point. Yeah, that's a dead root. That's not live.
It's got more surface roots.
Not a lot of live root, I'm afraid. The original measure there. It was in a very small pot to begin with. Okay, let's try it in the pot and see what it is. So as I said, by keeping it in this semi-cascade pot, I could probably preserve the use of the gin. See the effect. It would look like that, so that's not too bad. So that's how it would look. I think we can go for that.
That's good.
So I will now prepare the pot, because this tree doesn't have good roots, so I need to tie it in. Usually with semi-cascade and cascade trees, the pot being deep, I don't usually tie it in, but I may have to tie it in this instance. Let me find the right wire, just bear with me. So I've now prepared the pot. I put 2 pairs of wires to tie it in, and I've put mesh to cover all the holes. So that's the preparation done. And now this is something I like to do with especially cascade and semi-cascade pots. I put a drainage layer because that will help the drainage, and I don't want to fill it completely with soil because the soil can get sour. Now this material is called Huga. It's a yellow type of soil, almost like Kanuma, but these grains will last forever. I've had trees in Huga for 30-35 years and they're still perfect. They don't deteriorate at all. And it's such a light material, it's ideal for drainage, and it doesn't get sour and completely neutral. So that is Huga for you. And I'm just going to test the tree in it because I'm going to put a layer of sphagnum moss as well. I think that's about right. As I said, these roots are not all perfect because there's a lot of sick roots in there, but I don't want to cut anything. The ones which are live will take over, but the dead ones, they will just rot. Now after putting that, the next layer I'm going to put is our New Zealand moss. This moss, as I said, comes all the way from New Zealand. I know you can get it in this country, but Not many people sell it, but this is commercially purchased from New Zealand. There are some importers who import it for making flower hanging baskets and for Christmas wreaths. So that's what the moss is used for. Now let me test the tree. By using the semi-cascade pot, as I said, I hope that I don't have to cut this part off. If I used an ordinary flat rectangular or oval pot, it will be touching the soil. So this is why I've chosen to use this, and that can hang like so. If I use that as the front, the tree will be like that. I want to put some more moss. So I'm really using like a Peter Chan's moss trick. That means the moss is going to encourage new roots to grow. Surefire method. Moss is expensive. That whole bag, just a small bag, we sell for £4 or £5. It is a precious commodity. And then I will pack it in with some soil. So the moss is touching the roots. So this is all the intensive care methods that we use. And I will just bring some compost. Now this is our standard bonsai compost, which has pine bark, the peat substitute, Japanese volcanic pumice, and tiny bit of akadama in it. The amount of akadama varies with the species. With maples, I would use more akadama. With pines and junipers, I would use more of the volcanic grit. I think I will have to keep this tree for about 6 months here because I want to see it coming through. If I were to return it to the customer, they may not be able to take care of the tree properly, and all my efforts will be in vain. So, as I always say, I never plan the design beforehand. I let the tree evolve. It went through different stages. I couldn't decide whether to keep that or not keep it, but this is neither a literati nor a semi-cascade, but it's just a nice bonsai. I always tell people not to be obsessed with the styles. They try to force the trees into particular styles. The styles are only a convenient way of referring to a particular design. You don't have to conform to any one particular style. This is neither a literati nor a windswept nor an informal upright. It's just the tree put in a semi-cascade pot because I wanted to show that to the best of its potential. I will tie it in. See, having the 2 pairs of wires gives a good anchor to the tree. Although this didn't take long to make, this is, I think, the result of my experience. Anyone else could take quite a long time just to decide what to do with the tree. So this ability to see the design, I would say, comes with experience. And the fact that I always accept that there is no right way or no wrong way. I will refine this later on. I'll bring a little Dremel and then refine that. This is going to be the preferred front, I would say. You can use it looking at the tree this way with this dramatic driftwood there. Or I could look at it this way if you wish. That's also possible. Or you can look at the tree this way. So there's so many different sides to the tree. So we would call it a multifaceted tree. So tomorrow I will bring out my carving tools and just refine the dead wood a little bit. So hey presto, I will carve this. This takes time. I don't want to just bore you by showing you what to do. I've got to literally peel the bark off with this little Stanley knife. You don't want me to be doing 1 and 2 hours just peeling away with a Stanley knife. It's boring. So this is what I've got to do now the rest of the evening. Peel away the bark and make it nice looking driftwood. So this is the plan of action, and that hopefully should be the tree. So this is the San Jose juniper that we've rescued and repotted at this angle. So there's quite a lot of driftwood that needs enhancing, and we will now ask Padma Priya to show you how to do some of the carving.
Okay, so
What is the tool you're using
so
first?
this one is a Dremel.
Okay.
Okay, but I've got a different bit on it this time. So you've normally seen in previous videos, you've seen the terrier bit, which is used for taking out
Gouging.
yeah. Lots
So
of
this
heavy
is for
work.
creating like a fine groove, is
It
it?
is. This is much more fine work, because what we're looking to do here is not really do too much other than just bring out what's already there.
So we're not
So-
taking out chunks of wood, we're really removing
really.
the bark and making grooves.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm just going to give it a bit of a clean up with
Okay.
a wire brush first, so that we can see the natural contrast already,
Yeah.
and then we know what we're working with.
That wood rotted naturally, you know, so that's why you got that lovely texture.
Brilliant. Yeah.
You may not need to do much, just remove
No.
some of that debris.
No. What I was thinking is that this looks slightly heavy, so whether it might actually be worth actually going through here and creating a little bit of light through there.
Ooh, it may make it too weak.
It's up to you.
No, I
It's
don't.
it's
No, don't
your
make
tree.
it. No, it's
Yeah?
customer's
Okay.
tree.
Oh, customer's tree. Oh,
Customer's
right, okay, fair enough. Yeah. So all we're doing now. So
The rest of the wood is quite hard, isn't
yeah, we're working in layers.
it?
And we're following the
grain.
we're following the grain already. Yeah. Make a little bit more of that, I think. So very fine this. That's why you're using the pencil as well.
Are these tools expensive to buy?
You get quite a few bits with them when they come. If you want specialist bits, then it can get a little bit more expensive.
But the
basic tool, no.
what, 50,
I mean,
60 pounds?
I think, yeah, probably about that. There's different models
I
with
see.
different power settings. But these are the bits that cost you the money because they're specialists for what you're doing, you know.
And they're usually tungsten carbide or whatever.
Yeah. So I think we can take that out a bit and start joining that up with that, maybe.
Well, the Dremel isn't so dangerous. Because once you start using the router with these vicious bits, the router, I think, what is the RPM? Like 30,000 RPM. It's very fast, very dangerous.
This I use, this isn't on full power. This is about 25,000.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, if you're using the Arbortech, it's about another 10-15,000 RPM.
Yeah.
So what I'm creating here is I'm coming through here.
Oh.
You'll probably see it more when you come from this side. And we're going to start bringing that down through there. So just essentially extending that hollow out.
So doing this, each one can exercise their own sculptural skills.
Yes, yeah, totally.
Can you use it to clean the bark? That means remove the
Yeah.
bark on that.
Yeah, you can definitely.
Like what you're doing now.
I'd probably use a different tool if I was
Oh.
doing that, but we'll swap it in a minute, and there's some
Okay.
brushes that we can put on it that we can use. But
Because this whole piece is going to be made white. You know.
yeah. So normally I've got a little tube that I can then blow,
Okay.
and then I'll be able to see
All right.
more of what I've got. But you can see we've just extended. All we've done is really just made more of what's already there.
Right, when you've done some more, we'll come back to it again.
Yeah.
So these are gins, and the song's really sorry, so you got both gin and sorry there.
Yeah. There's quite a few lines. You know, these are the sort of like where
Vein, yeah.
the veins, the lignin and the I can't remember the other one at the moment, but basically that's what I'm trying to repeat now. So I'm using this to just create lines and go in a little bit deeper. Slow this down a little. Pull this back. That's why picking that up. Showing the red underneath. The tool's probably better for that. And then you get that nice red. You can see that red there coming through. Oh yeah.
So you probably don't do everything white. We keep some of the original red bark.
Exactly. Keep some of the original red
you
bark.
don't have to follow what
You don't
everyone
have
else
to,
does.
No, you don't have to get rid of it all. I mean, you can do, but
Yeah.
it seems a shame.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And you can keep your tree, you know, you can, so you do it like this, you have it like this for a few years, and then you can then go harder later, can't you? But you might as well enjoy it like this for a bit first, before you sort of, you know, make it like a complete piece of driftwood and make it all white. And it's, see that I think's lovely, the detail around there.
Good.
So let's just stop there, you know, we'll live with that for a while, and then when it rots back a bit more, then you can have another go at it, you know. That's a lovely colour, and that's really coming out. Same as around here, I think some of this could stay. Maybe not. Yeah, so you've got even greens in there. I'd even leave a little bit of the lichen on it as well,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
you don't have to take it all off in one go. You can always do it later on if you decide that's what you want. And then, as you say, as you lime sulphur, just go in very gently in those areas there, you know, try and leave the contrast. And we've kind of almost gone through here now, joining these two up, which is nice. So it should rot down quite naturally going through there, which would be nice. That's it, yes, there we go. I can imagine little squirrels or birds nesting in that little groove there. So that'll probably, for me, I'd probably leave it like that and then whiten those areas.
And then the top part of it with standing knife or something?
Yeah, well, this is really good little tool. It's nice and sharp, so you know you can go in. You got a bit more control, maybe. I don't know. It's whatever you like, really. The main thing is to make sure you've got sharp tools, because blunt tools you'll just end up cutting your fingers off. You can just go through here, clear off some of this dead wood. So that's such a nice red colour. Why would you want to cut all that off straight away? Do you know what I mean? Plenty of time to do that later on. That's your thing.
So this is the San Jose Juniper. We've now cleaned the bark off by stripping the old bark with a Stanley knife or a little pen knife, and we're now going to paint it white. We haven't refined it more, but this is the first stage. You could do so much. Where does it end? You've got to draw a line somewhere. Anyway, it still looks very nice, so we will show you how we apply the lime sulphur the following day. So we've now got to the stage where we're going to apply lime sulphur to the driftwood. This bit we showed you what we did with the little carving tool, the little Dremel. We deliberately didn't leave all the bark off, so we've only taken some of the bark off because we just want to selectively put lime sulphur in. So we're going to put lime sulphur here and along these bits of white. This will be completely white. Now I'm going to show you what lime sulphur is. Now this bottle here is the original lime sulphur that we buy from Japan. They come in 1 liter bottles, and as you can see, it's a very dark brown liquid, and in concentrated form it looks like this, almost the color of honey, I would say, but it smells horrible. It's got the smell of rotten eggs, and when it dries it becomes white. So I'm going to ask Steve to show you how we are going to do it, because you don't just apply it like this. If Steve can just explain what we're doing. You have to wet the trunk first?
Yep. Just a bit of water.
So we don't put it on just dry, huh? We wet the wood. Have you tried putting it dry without wetting it? What would happen?
It doesn't seem to absorb as quickly, but it certainly helps get an even coverage.
So we just use little paint brushes. These paint brushes are ideal.
Like so.
So when the lime sulphur is put on, it gets that yellow color from the lime sulphur. But don't despair, this yellow will turn white in about a day.
Probably a bit less.
Yeah, okay. Maybe even after 12 hours you'll get it turning white. But you get this bright yellow color. So that's put on. I'll show it to you when it's dried out, so we can put it on that bit.
All the way through here?
Yep.
You can see that's going on dry wood and it doesn't spread nearly
see.
as much. So much more even coverage.
So have you put enough on this bit?
That should be enough. Sometimes little bits need topping up, but
Right, so that is applied and then we wait for it to dry, and tomorrow we will show you what that lime sulphur will look like, and then I will do a little more wiring and this tree will be complete. Okay, and while we're here I will just show you we're in the process of putting lime sulphur on some of these other big junipers that we have. This is not part of this project but just shows you we do put lime sulphur on our trees from time to time. Mainly to make it look nice, and it may preserve it as well. But juniper wood is such a hard wood, so I don't think it rots easily. I think the main advantage is that it gives a nice appearance, and the preservative is maybe something different. Talking of driftwood, some people also put wood hardener. You get a paint or a resin which can be applied on driftwood to make it hard, make the wood hard. So that is worth trying as well. So I hope this gives you some ideas to what applying lime sulphur is like. And although you can't smell it on this video, I promise you it does stink. So I'm now going to show you the effect of applying the lime sulphur after 1 day. After 1 day it's turned white like this. So these are the branches we stripped the bark off with a pen knife or Stanley knife. And this bit also we applied lime sulphur, but very lightly, but I did something different. We left the bark on some of them and we put traces of the carving to make it look like a spiral. So I've done something just a bit different. So what we need to do now is to wire the tree a little more to give it some more definition. I'm going to do that. So this is the final view of the tree after doing a little more wiring, and I've made this almost like a literati style but in a semi-cascade pot. To remind you again, the semi-cascade pot was chosen because the right hand driftwood wouldn't have looked right in a long rectangular or oval pot, so we used this high pot to raise the tree above the soil surface. The tree on the left on its own would have made a very nice literati. So I hope I have made it look nice and changed it quite considerably from what it looked like in the first place. Should the dead wood on the right hand side ever perish, you always have this to use. See, it also looks nice like this. So you can have many different options for this tree. And to turn it around, let's see what we have on this side. On this side we've got, this is the back, not the original, but we get back to this, which is the front. So this is the tree complete, and I hope the customer likes it.